Oh hello. In today's video we're going to give a rundown of the Exaction Squad kill team. Let's go. So the Exaction Squad is an 11 model kill team. You are a standard human team. You're one of these standard human teams with the pretty standard security and seek and destroy. I think you're probably one of those teams that's going to want to take security. You've got to take a leader who's your Proctor-Exactant. He comes with options. You can either go for the combat shotgun and repression baton loadout, or the shot pistol, dominator maul, and assault shield loadout. I think that the shot pistol, dominator maul, and assault shield is the clear winner. You have a gunner pool, so you can take 2 of the 3 grenade launcher, heavy stubber, and Weber. I think we go for the grenade launcher and the Weber most of the time. And then the rest of the team's kind of weird. So you've almost got 2 warriors, and if we take away the Vigilant and the Subductor, right? You can take you take the Castigator, the Chirurgant, the Leashmaster, Rover, the Malocator, the Marksman, right? The Revelatum and the Vox-Signifier, and your 2 gunners, and that's your 10. So you can take all your specialists and no warriors, and indeed taking the dog, the Cyber-Mastiff, is your only way of building the team out of one box, right? But your 2 warrior options are the Vigilant, who's a warrior with a shotgun, and the Subductor, who's a warrior with the shield, the same Dominator Maul and Assault Shield combo that's pretty tasty. So you might be looking to drop 4 of your specialists to take 4 of those Subductors with shields, but it's tricky. We're going to go through them all. I think all these specialists are cool and have a place. You might be thinking of dropping the dog and the Leashmaster. That is a potential, but like I say, you've got to run the team from one box, you've got to take the dog, because the box contains 10 models and a dog, and it's an 11 model team, so there is that. Personally, I think if I was getting into this team, I'd buy one box, I'd try it without the Subductors, and then I would, if I wanted to go deeper into the team, I would think of picking up a second box and trying to decide based on actual playing games and feedback when I wanted to put those Subductors in. But you might have a clear idea from reading it when you want to use those Subductors, and I'd love to hear it in the chat. Where are we swapping in our Subductors? So you have 3 faction rules. They're actually pretty simple. So, ruthless efficiency. A target where the marks will be apprehended or eliminated stands little chance of escaping the attention of the Adeptus Arbites Exaction Squad. Whenever a friendly Exaction Squad operative is shooting, excluding with frag or crack grenades, and you're selecting a valid target, you can use this rule. If you do, having other friendly Exaction Squad operatives within an enemy operative's control range doesn't prevent that enemy operative from being selected. Which is a lot of words to say, hey, you can shoot into combat, but not with frag and crack grenades. Thank you for the beep, Mr. Carr. Sorry. When we've got marked for justice, Exaction Squads prioritise their targets, focusing their ire on those marked for immediate punishment before moving on to the next transgressor. So, strategic gambit. We mark one enemy operative to be our mark for the turning point. Whenever a friendly Exaction Squad operative is shooting against, fighting against, or retaliating against your mark, that friendly operative's weapons have the punishing weapon rule. Whenever your mark is incapacitated, you can select a new enemy operative to be your mark for the turning point, and you can continue to do so during this turning point. So essentially what this is saying is you've got a pretty good free buff where you just choose one of your opponents and all of your guys get punishing against that opponent, and you can move it around each turning point. And then finally for the faction rules we've got Repress. Repress is rather good when it shows up, right? So this is what your leader has if you go for that shield, and those Subductors I was talking about before with their shields. So experienced in suppressing riots, rebellions, and various other kinds of unrest, the Adeptus Arbites are resilient in the face of any oncoming foe, no matter their origin. Some weapons in this team's rules have the repress weapon rule below. So repress. Whenever the operative is using this weapon, each of your blocks can be allocated to block 2 unresolved successes instead of 1. If this operative is retaliating, you resolve the first attack dice, defender instead of attacker. So you get to do a double parry and you get to fight first, even when you are the person who is retaliating, which is pretty good. Pretty good. Strategy ploys. Let's go. So, guilt reveals itself. Exaction squads are relentless in their pursuit of the condemned. Few escape their clutches. Whenever you're selecting a valid target for a friendly Exaction squad operative, enemy operatives within 4 can't be in cover, instead of 2. While this can allow such operatives to be targeted, assuming they're visible, it doesn't remove their cover save, if any, unless the friendly Exaction squad operative is within 2 of not as normal. So, this is really nice, but... Right, interesting. So you can negate cover when you're within 4 while they're within 2. If this was a tactical ploy, it'd be really good. It's a strategy ploy, so yeah, it affects your entire team, but you have to have the foresight to sort of go, oh, this is going to come up, you know, you've got to do a lot of pre-measuring and kind of work out, and doing that without telegraphing your intentions to your opponent's a little bit tricky, so powerful buff, but like, I think slightly tricky to use. Inviolate jurisdiction. Emboldened by the authority they hold, Exaction squads will fight with zealous determination to hold key positions against the foe. Whenever an operative is shooting a friendly Exaction squad operative that's within 2 inches of an objective marker, or an enemy operative, you can re-roll one of your defense dice. Whenever an operative is shooting a friendly Exaction squad operative that's within 2 of an objective marker, or an enemy operative, you can re-roll one of your defense dice. So this is quite strong. I've written that it's a little bit limited because you only have 3 objective markers. Obviously, when I made the slides, I hadn't properly absorbed that it also works if you're within 2 of an enemy operative. This is actually really good because you're a short-range team. You want to be either on the objectives or, you know, remember you can shoot into combat, right? This is really good. I think this is, like I've said on the slide, this is definitely something that you want to have up. Possibly not from 10.1. Right, you're probably going to be that close up, turning point 1. Turning point 2 onwards, though, if you've got the points, you're definitely going to want to get Inviolate Jurisdiction up. Just because you're, you know, it's where your team really wants to be. It wants to be in that mid-board, quite close to the opponent, right? And so getting to re-roll your defense dice is pretty good on a 4-up save. Yeah, nice. Dispense justice. In pursuit of the guilty, arbitrators are focused, disciplined, and utterly determined. Whenever a friendly Exaction squad operative is fighting or retaliating, if it hasn't moved more than its move stat during the activation, or it's a counter-action, its melee weapons have the ceaseless special rule. It's good. It's slightly tricky to use. It relies on you, I guess, with your shield guys, if you take them, like tanking people, targeting people, having people who haven't had to charge. You know, you can charge as long as you don't use the last 2 inches of your charge, I guess. So yeah, it's a good buff. It's just tricky to use. Then finally got Terminal Decree, a dangerous quarry that has been judged guilty of heinous crimes against the Imperium and must be terminated with extreme prejudice. Whenever a friendly Exaction squad operative is shooting an enemy operative within 6, or whenever a friendly Exaction squad gunner is shooting just at all, that friendly operative's ranged weapons have the balance special rule. So this is really good, and again, I think you really want to have this up if you can. Probably from 10.2 onwards. I don't think there's anything here because it's all kind of buffs within short ranges, largely. I don't think there's anything here that you're going to want to use in turning point 1. So I don't think you're going to get much use out of the free strategy ploy scouting card, right? But a lot of decent buffs to try to think about sort of after turning point 1's over and done with. You got your Firefight ploys. Long arm of the Emperor's law. No one escapes the merciless judgment of the Debris Arbites. Use this Firefight ploy when a friendly Exaction squad operative is performing the shoot action, and you select a weapon with the range X weapon rule, excluding frag and crack. Until the end of that action, add 3 to X. So, I mean, this is great. You know, if you measure a range with one of your guns, because you've got a lot of range-limited guns in this team, not just shotguns, pistols as well, the Weber as well, and you're just, a few inches out, and then you can just go, all right, yeah, 1 CP, an extra 3 inches, bam. It just smooths things over. Yeah, I think this is a really good ploy. Exact punishment. To strike against an arbitrator is an offence punishable by immediate termination. Use this Firefight ploy after an enemy operative shoots against or fights against a friendly Exaction squad operative within 6. and that friendly operative isn't incapacitated as a result. The friendly operative can immediately perform a free shoot or fight action, but other enemy operatives cannot be selected as a valid target to fight against or during that activation. Note that secondary targets from blast weapon rule can still be targeted. So this is really good because it means if somebody jumps out and shoots you and you manage to survive, you can go, okay, cool, and immediately shoot them back. It's a nice use for CP, I like it. Brutal backup. When combating the most belligerent of foes, arbitrators may combine their considerable might to bludgeon the guilty with baton and maul. Use this firefight ploy during a friendly Exaction Squad operative's activation. Before or after it performs an action, select one enemy operative within its control range. One other friendly Exaction Squad operative can immediately perform a free fight action, but it can only fight against the enemy operative. This is interesting, but it's weirdly situational. So, use this firefight ploy during a friendly Exaction Squad operative activation. Before or after it performs an action, select an enemy operative in its control range. One other friendly Exaction Squad operative can immediately perform a free fight action, but it must fight that enemy operative. So, this is only really useful in a situation where you charge in to somebody who is already in combat with somebody else. Then you can fight and then get the person that was already in combat with them to get an extra fight, or you could charge, get the person that was next to them to get an extra fight, and then have your action. Do you know what I mean? You could actually have, if you had someone who was in combat with somebody else, you could charge, then use this, the person they were already in combat with gets a free fight. If they then kill them, you then can shoot somebody else or do something else. So, it's interesting, for sure. I think it can be powerful, but it is a little bit situational, a little bit tricky to use. And speaking of situational and tricky, can we just look at the screen, and the amount of text on the exaction order ploy is kind of epic. So, exaction order. Those who have earned the ire of the Imperium are marked by the Adeptus Arbites for execution, their termination prioritised. Use this firefight ploy when an enemy operative performs a mission action, excluding Operate Hatch. Alternatively, use it at the end of the firefight phase and select one enemy operative that controls an objective marker. Okay, so basically you have to pick an opponent's model that's scoring points in some way, right? It's either doing a mission action or it's holding an objective, right? The next time your opponent activates the enemy operative, you can interrupt the activation and activate a ready friendly operative. If you do, during the activation, that friendly operative must fight against or shoot against that enemy operative and cannot do so against any other enemy operatives until it does. If this is impossible, that friendly operative's activation is cancelled. After completing the friendly operative's activation, continue the enemy operative's activation if possible. You cannot use the firefight ploy again until the enemy operative is activated or incapacitated. So it is tricky. Basically, the way I see this going down is if you're having a fight over the middle objective, you put this on at the end of the turning point. So at the start of the next turning point, even if you don't have initiative, you're like, well, if he goes first, I can interrupt and then I can shoot him with a shotgun, hopefully kill him before he gets to do anything. It's alright. Right, let's into the data cards, the fun part. So, the Proctor-Exactant. The Proctor-Exactant can have a shotgun and a repression baton, or he can have a shot pistol and the Devastator Maul and assault shield. Now, because of what they've done in this edition with pistol ranges, the pistol will have an 8-inch range. So the pistol, 4 dice hitting on 3s, 3-3, and range 8, it's like exactly in the middle of the two profiles of the shotgun. Okay, so it's worse than the shotgun in 6 inches, but you've got those extra 2 inches of range where it's better than the long range profile of the shotgun, right? So you're not losing that much, I don't think. It's not straightforwardly a worse... Like, what this is supposed to be is, do you want the shooty guy or the combat guy? But I think you're losing less by taking the shot pistol over the shotgun than let's look at the combat options. So with the shotgun is paired with the repression baton, which is 3 dice hitting on 3s, 2-3s. But with the Dominator Maul and Assault Shield, you've got 4 dice hitting on 3s, 4-4, lethal 5-up, shock, a 3-up armor save from the Assault Shield rule, right, which is a big deal, and repress, which we looked at the start, which is that you always strike first, and and you can parry twice, effectively. Right, so there's no way you're trading away that to get, because you're like, oh yes, I must have a combat shotgun, right? The shot pistol is fine. It's fine. You get a 3-up save, man. You know, yeah. Then you've got the... Man, I was just thinking you could give this guy the portable barricade as well. Just if you wanted an Arbite with a 2-up save, you could do that. I don't know if it's good, but you could do it. Then you've got the Proctor-Exactant special rule. So this is the Nuncio Aquila. So this little drone that he launches off him. Okay. Whenever an enemy operative is... No, we'll start with the action first. That makes more sense. So deploy Nuncio Aquila for 0 AP. If your Nuncio Aquila marker isn't in the kill zone, place it within 6. 6 is a long way. Horizontally of this operative. Otherwise, move your Nuncio Aquila up to 6 horizontally. If this operative is removed from the kill zone, remove the Nuncio Aquila. What does a Nuncio Aquila do? Whenever an enemy is within 3 of your Nuncio Aquila, or this operative, if your Nuncio Aquila isn't in the kill zone. So if you've yet to launch it, you just have this aura anyway, right? Your opponent has to spend 1 additional AP for the enemy operative to perform the pickup marker and mission action. So again, you just send this forward, hang it out in the middle, and as long as your Proctor doesn't die, they can't remove the Nuncio Aquila. It's not a thing that they can interact with or target. It just sits in the middle going, yeah, you know, you have to spend an extra AP to do the mission stuff that you might have wanted to do, which is cool. And whenever determining control of a marker, treat the total APL stat of enemy operatives that contest it as 1 lower if at least one of those enemy operatives is within 3 of your Nuncio Aquila marker. Again, that's nice, really nice. Just send this thing off to the middle while you go. You don't have to be anywhere near it. You can go to something else, right? It's fine. It's good. Chirurgant, it's a medic. I've done so many of these. Do you want to read out the whole paragraph for medic? I mean, let's look at the standard stat line first. It's a 2 APL, 6-inch move, 4-up save, 8 wound team. I think we found that the boss had an extra wound. Yeah, he did. Your combat shotgun, which is going to be common to the whole team. So 4 dice. Within 6, it's hitting on 3s, 4-4. At long range, hitting on 5s, 2-2, which is blah. Okay. And then he's a very standard medic. Okay. So you've got the medic ability, which I'm going to paraphrase. Unless you resurrect somebody that's within 3 inches and you go down an APL and they go down an APL and they come back on 1 wound. And it's been standardized across the whole game now. And it's paragraph text. It's the medic ability. And then you've also got Medikit, which again I'm going to paraphrase really quickly. 1 AP. You put 2d3 lost wounds back into somebody, but you can't do it to somebody that you've resurrected. That turning point. Okay? Good. The Leashmaster. So the Leashmaster is pretty cool because he comes with his dog, right? So he's got the standard combat shotgun. He's got a repression baton, right? Now, his big rule is Handler. Whenever this operative is activated, you can activate a ready friendly Exaction Squad RVR Cyber-Mastiff operative at the same time, but it's not group activation. You can complete their activations action by action in any order, so you've got the 2 operatives, you can meld between them, okay? And then you've got attack pattern strategic gambit. So in the first turning point, you select one of the following attack patterns for the friendly Exaction Squad RVR Cyber-Mastiff to have for the battle. So it can either have relentless on its teeth. We'll look at its teeth in a minute on the next slide. It can have 2 inches extra movement, or it can have an extra point of save. So what you can do, for example, last thing, for 0 AP, you can change its attack pattern, right? So the dog can benefit from 2 attack patterns every single turn. This is the thing, because you can only do that action once per turning point, because it's an action. Right, but you're going to start the turning point on a attack pattern, and then you could have another one that you swap to halfway through your activation. So, for example, you could start the dog at the start of the game on Swift, so it's got plus 2 inches of movement. Then, hopefully, the dog gets to do a charge on somebody in an ideal world, right? Then, you'd go back to the Leashmaster and you'd use command. It's an action. It's 0 AP action, but still an action. You swap the dog onto aggressive. Then, if you want to, you can move up with the Leashmaster. The Leashmaster could then shoot into combat, right? Then you could swap back to the dog, who's now got aggressive on his melee weapon, and hopefully he kills the person, right? And that sort of thing, I'm sure there are other ways that you could do it, but that sort of thing is quite cool. Them working in tandem with each other. We need to look at the dog to fully understand everything. So the dog, 2 APL, 6-inch move, 4-up save, 8 wounds. Okay, he's a beast, so he can't do anything other than apprehend, charge, dash, fall back, fight, guard. He can guard. He can reposition. He can pick up and place markers, but he can't throw a grenade, essentially. Now, his mechanical bite, it's not wonderful, but it's not bad. It's 4 dice hitting on 4s, 3-5, lethal 5-up, right? But of course, you're going to be trying to give it relentless as well, which is going to make it a bit better, help you with that 4-up hit. Now, he's got a free action as well that he can do: apprehend, 0 AP. Select one enemy operative within the operative's control range until the enemy operative is no longer within the operative's control range, or until this operative performs this action again, worse than the hit stat of that enemy operative's weapons by 1, not cumulative of being injured. So that's good. You know, it means that he's got a decent chance of doing something in combat. Yeah, I think he's a good dog. You got your gunners. We've kind of talked about this before. I think the grenade launcher is pretty mandatory. Interestingly, there's no crack and frag profiles for the Arvite's grenade launcher. It's just take grenade launcher. It's 4-4, 4-6 piercing 1. You just want that source of piercing 1. And then I think I'm going to go for the Weber. So compared to the heavy stubber, the Weber has +1 to its hits or hitting on 3s, which is great. It's got severe and stun, which is great. It doesn't have heavy dash only, which is great. It does only have a range of 12, but remember that you can buff that by 3 inches for a CP if that comes up, right? But I think 12 it's almost not worth writing on there, is it? Like range limitation 12 on a kill team board. That's pretty much the board, right? And if it really comes into it, you can buff it up to 14, 15. Basic maths, Phil, come on. Which is, yeah. Now, if you're coming up against Thousand Sons or Legionaries or I guess Brood Brothers, right? Well, one of these teams that can just go, I've turned off piercing, then maybe that's when you go for the heavy stubber over the grenade launcher, actually, right? Because if piercing's turned off, you know, it's still not a dead cert, because even without the piercing, the grenade launcher is an extra point of crit and it's more mobile. You can move fully and shoot it. Whereas the heavy stubber, you're limited to the dash, but you are at least at that point getting the extra dice or the option of going into torrent mode, which probably if you take piercing out of the equation, and there are, I think, 3 teams that can do that, then the heavy sword becomes slightly better. But I don't know if it's something where I would, unless I really love the idea of painting loads of Arvites, I don't know whether it's going to compel me to get that second box, because I think the arguments for the stubber they're not non-existent, right, but they're pretty dicey. The Malocator. So again, he's a standard bod in terms of his stats and his guns. He has acute focus, so once during each of his activations he can perform pickup marker, place marker, or his Veriscant action for free. So essentially this is free Veriscant, and then occasionally, instead of doing this for free, you can do pickup or place marker for free if that's something you're doing. So this is a decent enough buff. Select one enemy operative visible to this operative until the start of this operative's next activation, until it's incapacitated, or until it performs the action again, whichever comes first. Whenever a friendly Exaction squad operative is shooting or fighting against or retaliating against that enemy operative, the friendly operative weapons have the severe weapon rule. If they already have it, they gain lethal 5-up. So it's a good buff, yeah. And it's on any enemy operative visible to you. You just go, yeah, you. And bear in mind, so you're now handing out severe. And bear in mind, you also have the ploy. Oops, where are we? Where's the ploy? No, you have, what I'm thinking of is Marked for Justice. Yes, where you can also hand out punishing. So you could stack them on the same miniature, which is pretty good. Yeah, I like the Malocator, but he brings his buff and then he's just a guy with a shotgun, which isn't great. It's not a great profile, but I think he makes up for it with his Veriscant buff. The Marksman. The Marksman is a weird sniper. So he has basically the standard, like, slightly rubbish sniper rifle in that it's a standard sniper rifle but with concealed position, so you can only fire it silently once. But it's not. It's got a weird damage profile. So if you've been watching this whole series of videos, most snipers are 3-3 damage, dev 3. This is 4-0, dev 4. So on a crit, you've not got the potential to do 6. You're going to do 4, but you are going to do 4. They can't stop the 4 dev wounds coming through, which is, I don't know if that's a buff or a nerf. It's interesting. And then on your regular hits, you're getting an extra damage through. You're getting 4 damage through, which is nice. What makes him good and worth taking, first of all, he's not competing with your gunners. He's not in the gunner pool. He's separate. What makes him good is he has the really cool optics ability, and this is really cool. So for 1 AP, he gains lethal 5 up, right? And enemy operatives can't be obscured. Yep. That, lethal 5 up on that profile where you want to try and push those dev 4 wounds through is great. It's great. And ignore obscuring against certain teams, that's just amazing. So, yeah, well done. I'd take him just for that. Revelatum. So, you get a second source of cannot be obscured, which is nice. You got 2 sources of that, which is good. Fits the team's, lore background as, hunters, detectives, there's a guy hiding in the shadows there. Look, we can see him with our detective gear, So, spot, 1 AP, it's a support action. It buffs all the other Exaction Squad operatives within 3 of this operative. You are also an Exaction Squad operative within 3 of yourself, right? So it's going to be you and anyone else within 3 of you. Your weapon has Seek Light, and the enemy can't be obscured, which is pretty good. It's also pretty good just on him, considering he's got a long-range weapon that's 4 dice hitting on 3-3-3 that you can have Seek Light and not remove obscuring on, which it will come in from time to time. It's nice to be able to reach out and touch somebody who believes they're perfectly safe, on conceal on a vantage point with light terrain up top. Yeah. And then, of course, you get your free reposition. Now, be aware, this is a strategic gambit in the first turning point. If its operative is wholly within your drop zone, it can immediately perform a free reposition. Look at the text that's not there. It's not like the scouting phase one where it's a reposition, but you have to wind up within 3 inches of your drop zone as the crow flies. It's just a flat-out 6-inch move. You can 6 inches away from where you started. That's how move works. So that's pretty good. And then you've got Vox-Signifier. He's comms. And you've got, it's on an unlimited range comms, which is great. So one of the better, it's not up there with the Castigator comms where you can do it twice, but it's one of the best comms. You do need to be visible, right? But you don't need to be within any kind of range. So that's nice to have, right? Flexible. Good. And then the Castigator. So the Castigator is a combat specialist. He has an Excruciator Maul, which is 4 dice hitting on 3s, 5/5 rending and shock, which is pretty good. He has endangered focus, so he can ignore any changes to his stats, including his weapon stat, but excluding his save stat, which is pretty funny. So you can't really debuff him at all. Zealous Dedication, so this is one of these, whenever an attack deals damage of 3 or more, roll d6. On a 5, subtract 1 of the inflicted damage. I think they've gone wrong with this ability, and this is not a comment on Arbites, this is a game-wide comment. I understand that they wanted to get rid of the feel no pain that we had before, where you could roll a 5 up to save every single damage point that was coming in. I understand that was stupid, but I think this is you're rolling the dice and doing the thing, and most of the time it's an ability that's going to do nothing except slow the game down slightly, which is, it's fine, right? But Yeah, it's like, it's not bad. I'm not seriously complaining about it, and I don't have any better ideas. I don't want the other ability back. But yeah, it's a bit. Castigator's arrest. Whenever enemy operatives in control range of this operative, if there are no other enemy operatives or within control range, that enemy operative cannot fall back. You just can't fall back. No, roll a die, stand on your head, rotate backwards. Just you can't fall back from him. So if you get in combat with a high gunner, happy days. Happy days. Happy days. Then you got your Subductor. There's not much to read about on the Subductor's card, right? You've got that really good shield and shock maul that we talked about at the start of the on the Sergeant. Now it is shock maul and assault shield, so actually it's not quite as good. If we go back here, I'm pretty sure this guy has Dominator maul and assault shield, so 4-3, 4-4, lethal 5-up, shot repress. So you're not getting, I think it's the lethal 5-up. Yeah, but it's still pretty good, right? And you can ignore any changes to the hit stat of your melee weapons. It's a fairly rare debuff, but it is there on some other teams. So these are cool. You can take as many as 4. I just struggled to identify the weak specialists that I'd want to take drop in order to take the Subductors, because all the specialists seem genuinely quite good and useful. I think, and I'm going to say this again later on, but I'll say it now, I think if you're interested in playing Arbites, you buy one box, you build all the specialists, you play them that way for a while, you identify which specialists for you don't seem to be pulling their weight, and then you look at getting the second box and adding in 4 Subductors and working out through play where you want to swap in those Subductors and how many. Because they are powerful models. It doesn't, from a read-through like this, it doesn't jump out at me where you want to swap them in. Vigilance, I'm sure you never take. So it's a guy with a shotgun. So many of your guys are this, plus they do something. Like, the only thing he's bringing to the party is that he can perform the shoot action while within control range of an enemy operative, but only if it hasn't charged during the activation or if it's a counter action. So if you are in combat with him and he hasn't charged you, and then he gets a turn, he can't do it to retaliate, it has to be his turning point. He can shoot you with his close range profile, which is, like, it's pretty good as an ability. But I'm just thinking, how many things in the game are going to charge the Vigilant, fail to kill the Vigilant? Do you know what I mean? It's a tough one. So it's an interesting ability, but I don't think you ever take these Vigilants. Let me know in the comments if you think I'm wrong, and if you think I'm underselling the Vigilants, but I just don't think you ever take these at all. Their equipment. Reinforced mirror visor. This armoured visor is designed to shield the wearer from blinding and disorienting weapons or devices. You can ignore any changes to your APL stats of friendly Exaction Squad operatives, and they aren't affected by the shock weapon rule. This is another of those ones, if you've watched my review of the Navy Breaches, it's like, this is good, but also it's not. Right, so it's good because it's a team-wide buff, and generally speaking, I like any equipment that's just a team-wide, all your team gets better. But at the same time, it's like, APL modifiers are really something that you hand out. You try and use against Marine teams, I think. I don't know, like, maybe it's just because the people I play and the way I play, it doesn't happen a lot, but it's not happening a lot that I can see. If in your meta, I do hear other people online going, oh, we love stun grenades and always stun grenades. So if that's a thing, if you're playing in that stun grenade meta, then take this. Realistically, you take this anyway, because you'd feel stupid if you didn't take it and then somebody threw a stun grenade at you and you were like, oh. So, yeah. Manacles. These adamantine manacles prevent captive subjects from escaping custody. Whenever an enemy operative will perform the fallback action while within the control range of a friendly Exaction Squad operative, if no other enemy operatives are within that friendly operative's control range, you can use this rule. If you do, roll 2d6 or 1d6 if the enemy operative has a higher wound stat than you, friendly operative. If the result is a 4-up, the enemy operative cannot perform that action during the activation or counteraction and no APS spent. It's funny because Night Lords have the exact same piece of equipment, and the difference is that a Night Lord really wants to keep people in combat with it because it's it's more likely to work because the Night Lord has 14 wounds, and also the Night Lord is a 8-foot tall bloodthirsty barbarian covered in the skin of your wife and children. An Arbite is like, okay, yeah, he's Judge Dredd, but he's still basically a dude. So yes, I guess if you're going for the build where you're taking the 4 Subductors and you've got that kind of front line where you're trying to tie people up with the Subductors and then you're shooting them with your gunners and things and shooting into combat, and I think that's one way in which this team does well, then I guess you take the Manacles. But it's just dodgy because, you know, you got to roll a dice, 50% chance it doesn't do anything. I still take them, probably, at least for the first couple of games, and see if it came up, you know. Now, strobing Foster and Phospher-Lumen, so this one I like. The brilliant white flickering light of this rotating lumen device has the effect of disorienting foes caught in its beam. For some reason, I just think of them having, like, police lights actually on top of their hats, like morons. I don't know. Whenever an enemy operative is shooting against, fighting against, or retaliating against a friendly Exaction Squad operative, within 2 of it, your opponent cannot reroll their attack dice results in more than 1. Copying Night Lord's homework again, really. This is just flayed skin from Night Lords. It's like, fine. Yeah, probably take it, because, you know, you're going to be up close with them, trying to do stuff. 2 is a bit small, but yeah, turning off rerolls of 1 is pretty good. And then you got the last one, which is special issue shells. It's weird. Arbite shotguns cannot be loaded with a wide range of specialist ammunition, including but not limited to incendiary rounds and armor-piercing slugs. So once per turning point, when a friendly Exaction Squad operative is performing a shoot action, and you select a combat shotgun, executioner shotgun, scoped shot pistol, or shot pistol, you can use this rule. So first of all, it's kind of tasty that you can give it to your sniper rifle, right? That's kind of tasty. So you can have saturate, which is okay. You can have piercing 1, but only if the target has a save stat of 3 up or better. And you can have torrent 1, but you can't select more than 1 secondary target. I mean, against a horde team, torrent 1 of that sniper rifle might be pretty funny. But yeah, this is good, and you take it, and it's fair, and it's balanced, but it's just also slightly funny from that kind of lunar narrative point of view. Like, what's the reason that you're not loading up the man stoppers, or whatever they are, the piercing 1 shells? No, it's the Geneva Convention. I don't know. I mean, I guess if I want to make it make sense in my head, it's a bean counter thing, right? It's the Adeptus Ministorum saying, look, right, these shells cost, like 14 credits each, and a standard shell costs like 12 credits each. So you're only allowed, like, the guy in the grey robe back in the precinct house is only going to dish them out if, there's Chaos Space Marines coming over the hill. Like, all right, okay, so now we're gonna let you have these, right? Because if we're just being overrun by orcs, it would be better to die and have all the shotgun shells preserved in the precinct house for recovery eventually by the Minotaurum. Right, like, fine. Okay, I fixed it in my head. I 40k'd it up. That is actually the kind of ludicrous nonsense that happens in 40k. That's fine. Has anybody watched the Tithes on Warhammer Plus? It's very good, actually. The 3rd episode is pretty good. You go and watch that. And then, if you go and watch the 3rd episode of Tithes on Warhammer Plus, suddenly this nonsense makes sense, because that's how 40k works. Right, Tac Ops. I would probably aim to try contain with these. I've written, I think they're a contain. Like, I think the way this team works just in my head is it's trying to get into the middle-ish and then just hold the thin blue line, if you like, except it's the Judge Dredd space fascist cops, so the thin black line, I guess, but you're just trying to stop the You know, stop them getting into your area, hold them back with the right shields, and further back you got your second string of ranged guys trying to pour fire onto them. Does it work? I don't know. Is it cool? Yes. I can see what they're trying to do and I support it. So, yeah. It's not been reprinted yet. So I found it in stock in Wonderland models for 40 quid. 1 box is fine, 2 boxes better. Okay? They're Arbites. Yeah. Final thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm trying to interrogate myself on why I'm more upbeat on these than I were on the Navy Breaches. I think they're better than Navy Breaches. Is that mad? I think they are. I think in my heart of hearts, I kind of know that you want to take Subductors, but I am unable to give you the useful advice and say, no, shall I force myself to do it? Who am I dropping? To take 4 Subductors? Right, it's probably going to be the, you got to take a leader. Yeah, we'll drop the medic. Fine, medic's gone, he doesn't really help us. We'll drop the Leashmaster and the dog. That's 3. Take our gunners. Do we need the Malocator? Probably want him. We want the Marksman. We probably want the Revelatum. We want the Castigator. We're going to then have to drop. If we want 4 Subductors, it's going to be the... it's going to depend on the matchup, to be perfectly honest with you. Probably the Revelatum. It's probably the wrong choice. But certainly I'd drop the medic, the dog, and the dog handler to take 3. Maybe leave it there. Maybe you don't need to take 4. But I stand by what I said before. Try it with all the specialists first and form your own opinions. I'm just trying to not be lazy and give you an answer. Who do you drop? You've had my 3 or 4, right? Good. And just to remind you, if you want to build them as a 1-box team, you have to build the handler and the dog, because it's the only way to make the team work out of 1 box. I want to say a big thank you to all of my subscribers, supporters, members, and a big special extra thanks to Compendium Lover, who is subscribed at the Tabletop HQ tier and donates a significant portion of the total monthly take of the channel. So that's good. That's good. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. So we've now done all the teams. So the next team that we can do, we haven't done all the teams by a long shot. What I've half said, we've now done all the teams that relate to the Inquisition team. So we're going to do Inquisition next. So again, it's the usual thing of, I will do a video tomorrow, as long as they don't do anything interesting. As soon as they drop the Plague Marine rules, I'm going to do this, but for the Plague Marines, they're going to jump ahead, because I've already done all the Marines, and I'm super excited for Plague Marines, and it'll get views, so for all those reasons. But in the absence of anything interesting to talk about, Inquisition's going to be the next slice, now that we've don't, because otherwise I would end up covering flipping Kaskin, Vet Guard, Exaction Squad, and Breaches, and Inquisition all in the same video. So at least I can say, or you could take these. Right, so done. See you next time. Looking forward to it. Cheery bye. Bye 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 bye.